This is Gabriel Custodiet of Watchman Privacy. I know why you're here. You're looking to escape the technocratic apparatuses that you see slowly enveloping you and restraining your freedom. For the fundamentals of privacy, you should start by visiting escapethetechnocracy.com to see my video tutorials, books, and other resources for getting off the surveillance grid. Watchman Privacy and Escape the Technocracy are leading the fight for privacy, and unlike just about any other show, we practice what we preach. Private payment options, no threat modeling, no statist or collectivist solutions, and no sponsors, ever. You know what that means? It means we can speak the unmitigated truth as we see it. Your support alone determines the future of this show. Go support you and me at escapethetechnocracy.com. I'm very pleased today to be joined by Stephen Harris. I have had the privilege of knowing Stephen for the last couple of years, and he's a very intelligent guy, very generous in sharing his thoughts on all manner of things. He's an engineer. He's really a polymath, and we're just going to pick his brain about all sorts of things, technology, privacy, all sorts of things. Stephen Harris, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. You know, you're the second person to call me a polymath, and when Josh did it first, I had to Google it and look it up, and it's like, I think this is good. And I looked, and it's like, okay, I'll accept that.
Absolutely. And Stephen has a podcast, a website. He's written numerous books. I think your best-selling book is on preparing for nuclear disaster. We'll certainly talk about some of these things, but for now, maybe you could just give people a little bit of your background, Stephen, so we know where you're coming from.
Well, my background started off in electrical engineering. And I've had a series of mentors, one of which was Crescent Carney, of which I've continued his work in his book, Nuclear War Survival Skills. But one of the guys that taught me a lot was a gentleman by the name of Edwin York. And not only is one of the fathers of our modern preparedness, but he was also a nuclear weapons engineer. And this is going way back, into the 70s and 80s and 90s. And he was one of our favorite speakers at a conference I'd go to. And he'd always start off his thing with a little bit of levity. And it was something I always appreciated. And what everyone here doesn't know is, like, we had a false start with our communications app because it allows for superior audio between Gabriel and I. And he dropped off. And so I'm sitting here hoping it's still recording. I'm going, the space aliens and the deep sea got my signal. We have triangulated Gabriel's location and transported him into the fifth dimension. I am now in control of the Watchman Privacy Podcast. Insert wicked evil laugh.
Fair enough. What about your background, by the way, in combat simulations? Could you talk about that for a minute?
Combat simulations? Wow. I actually started, one of my first jobs was for FASA, Fredonian Aeronautical and Space Administration, with Ross Babcock and the legendary Jordan Wiseman. And if you're going to go, what that sounds familiar, it's FASA, F-A-S-A. They're the ones that developed the board game, the role-playing game, BattleTech. And I was starting working with them when they were doing the BattleTech simulator. And things didn't work out in Chicago. And I ended up coming back to Detroit. But some years later, I myself and a friend of mine created the Starship Combat Simulator, which is something I always wanted to do. This is circa 1992. I mean, my fastest computer was a 486 SX. And we had about 10 of them in the thing. And we had 16 screens in the whole thing. These, again, were tubes, and they had to be spaced a certain distance apart. Otherwise, they would interfere with each other. I mean, this is when LCDs were $25,000 for like a 19-inch. It's like, forget that. So wrote and designed a Starship Combat Simulator in which 5 people flew a starship on a 2-hour mission. In fact, I invented our own language for it. It was called Q, both because it was omnipotent and a reference to Star Trek's character Q, who was omnipotent, but also it was an advanced queuing system, QUE, that we got to write all the simulations in. and such that we could write out the simulation and what would happen when you were where, what you were faced with, what communication. So you had a captain, and he had no screen. He was in the captain's chair. And then the four people in front of him each had four screens each. So you had helm officer, weapons officer, engineering, and operations. And operations like ran the shields and everything. Engineering had to allocate power to weapons and helm for ship speed, and to engineering for shields. And it was all a fine balance. It was really a lesson in game balance and game theory. And this was in my basement. So I made a Starship simulator in my basement. My buddy's wife was a fantastic artist extraordinaire, and she decorated this thing so beautifully. I mean, you see the pictures of it, you're going like, oh my God, why? That thing looks like it leads off into another room. It's like, no, that was her artwork on the wall. And literally, if when you see the pictures, you think there's a corridor leading off to other places, and it's just a painting on the wall. But I had probably near 1,000 people over several years go through this thing. And then we wanted to evolve it and make more simulators and connect them. And my partner really found what we call every reason not to. So it ended up going nowhere. So I ended up, it just became a really great learning point in my education. Basically, I gave myself a PhD in combat simulation.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm impressed with by you, Stephen, is that just you do so many things and you just put a ton of attention into them, and you do them very well. Like there's nothing that you're doing that you're not doing very well. What do you think is the key to your mindset of just achieving and having curiosity and accomplishing things? Is there some kind of a secret that you'd be willing to impart to people that they could follow?
It's not a secret, it's a curse. Listen to Elon speak on Joe Rogan, and he was asked like, how many people in the world think they would like to be Elon Musk? And he pauses and thinks, and he goes, not very many. I mean, you got a brain that doesn't shut off, and you're always thinking like on in five dimensions, both back into history and future forward, and you can see nothing but a realm of possibilities around you. And then you deal with companies and other things that are literally, they call, I'm going at the speed of neutrinos, and they literally call the speed of their operation plate tectonic speed. And I'm going like, oh my God, and it can be awfully frustrating. um, to anyone out there, and I'll probably have a podcast on this in the future, one of my own, and it's what we call a high speed mentality. And it has to do with desire, drive, want, um, your own set of personal standards. Like, okay, you're never there on time. You're always early for whatever you're doing. You always have contingency time built into whatever you're doing. I was at Chrysler, and we had a meeting. My engineering location was Jeep and Truck Engineering in Detroit, which was the old AMC headquarters. And we had the new Chrysler Technical Center up in Auburn Hills, which was the world headquarters. I had like a really, really important meeting. It's like a 45-minute drive. And so I left an hour and a half before, 90 minutes before the meeting. And I ended up getting there, and I walked right through the door 2 minutes before the meeting, and walked in. I just kind of went like, made it. And someone looks at me and goes, well, if you would have left early, you would have been here 2 minutes before the meeting started. I just looked at him and snapped. I go, I left 90 minutes early for a 45-minute commute. Not only was there an accident, but, there was a detour and I had to go around and everything else. I'm here on time because I left early. And it's adhering to all the little things of that level of excellence. It's like we just got back from an event, and I showed up early to help Josh and go around with Andy and get all the food for everyone at the event. And I mean, that was a good 14-hour day, and it was last year, and it was some of the best part of it. But It was, yep, let's go, let's get it. And as I say, if you're walking towards someone in the hallway and they drop something, you reach over and pick it up to hand it back to them before they can even realize that they dropped it. It's a high speed mentality, but it has to do with your personal want, your personal drive. In canines, we call it ball drive, where, say you got like a black lab. It's like you can throw that ball into the water all day, and that black lab will go out and get the ball and bring it back and go, Dad, throw it again. And until that black lab is literally like coming back, dropping the ball, laying down, and it's like, oh, you're going to throw the ball again, and it goes out after it, again, 3 hours straight. We call that ball drive. And it has to do with personal wants, personal ambitions. A culture of daily learning is really important. Every day you are learning something. You are in pursuit of something. Is that part of your drive? Is that a part of your curiosity? Is that part of, I don't know. What would you say that's part of, Gabe?
I'm not sure. I think, as you say, it's just a drive. It's a will to know and a will to do, and you just have to put it into action.
Yeah, and you can see why some people that have this, they call it a curse.
Yeah, certainly. Let's. I
My,
just for
we were doing my background when we got interrupted last time.
Yes. Did you want to say more? I think we. Did you want to say more
I
about that? Go for it.
I started at Chrysler Corporation in 1990, went through it to 2000, and electrical engineering was my original education. And through Chrysler, I got exposed to a great deal of manufacturing engineering and mechanical engineering, which is why I have a class called The 3 Real Methods of Wealth Creation on my website. And it's like, you won't find them in Google. It has nothing to do with the stock market. It has nothing to do with real estate. It has nothing to, it's how research and development manufacturing engineers actually take something that is unavailable to the entire population and put it into the real gross domestic product. And that is how you make wealth, not money. And what's like, the Chrysler foundry had a saying. They were in Indianapolis, and they're the one that poured the engine. We're the only ones in the company that makes anything real. Everyone else just assembles it or paints it.
Right.
So I got a great deal of manufacturing engineering knowledge through osmosis, through being in the scientific labs, doing vehicle development. Again, high speed started back then because we were a 6-person, high-paced group doing the thermal analysis of the vehicles. And aerodynamics and thermal analysis is like bumper to bumper engineering for the whole vehicle, because what part of the vehicle doesn't involve aerodynamics and heat, especially since your only heat sink is the air. Now you get into like what we call NVH, noise, vibration, and harshness. Well, noise comes from the wind. Okay, literally the wind, your slipstream going over your windshield wipers. What noise is that making? What noise is it making going past your FM antenna? What noise is it making on your mirrors and everything else? So I got a great deal of mechanical engineering and knowledge through osmosis through that procedure. And then at the later stages of Chrysler, I got into electrical chemical engineering because I had a professor, my own side study in hydrogen and hydrogen manufacture and all other forms of energy. I've been into energy since people ask me, goes, when did you start in energy? I go, second grade. And so that got me into electrical chemical engineering because we had problems with the flow of current from the alternator, going throughout the vehicle and coming back. And it's like, well, they would put a grounding cable on your heater core, which is aluminum, because there was too much interference being radiated through it because of the electronic ignition system that interfered with your AM radio. Well, that was basically short circuiting the heater core back to the engine block or the frame ground, which was allowing a large amount of electrons to flow through it. Well, when you get electron flow in one direction, you get ion flow in the other, and ions would be pieces of aluminum entering the coolant. And they came up and they were showing us, it's like, yeah, we got a problem with the heater core, and it was like mush. And they were going, we don't know what's causing this. And I put my finger on it, and they go, well, yeah, and we measured 35 amps through the grounding strap. And I go, what? I go, I know what's causing this. Instantaneously, I became the electrical chemical person for Daimler Chrysler person, because the PhD Indian who was in charge of electrochemistry kept on falling asleep in meetings. And since I had the ball drive and the want, it's like I kept on getting the assignments and kept on solving it. To this day, I think I'm the only person to ever measure the resistance from one corner of an engine to another corner of the engine. But this got me to that, and hydrogen manufacture got me into a great deal of chemistry. It got me into a great deal of electrochemistry. That then, when I started publishing books on the manufacturing of hydrogen, I'd make videos on the books, and that got me into a great deal of what's called thermal chemistry. This is high temperature, 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit and everything else, for the manufacture of hydrogen and other compounds from dead trees, branches, leaves, propane, kerosene, diesel, everything, the reformation of it over into another substance that you could then use. And so that kicked me into the entire chemistry field, which I began to just absolutely devour. And that's why my background is in everything from electrical engineering, from circuit board design to component level placement, component level design, RF design, having a ham radio background, which would be, let's see, I've been programming for 44 years and amateur radio for 41. And so, yeah, anyways, then electrical engineering, RF engineering, antenna theory, all the way up into electrical chemical engineering to chemical engineering to thermochemical engineering. And actually, some of the consulting I got done doing recently was thermochemical engineering, and the temperatures were literally up to 5,500 Fahrenheit, 3,000 Celsius. Oh, that's a fun world up there. Oh, that's fun. You just have to love those type of things, or like you won't get into it. I mean, whatever it is, chase your passion, chase your desire, and that's how you do it.
Going back to manufacturing for a moment, what do you think makes people successful? Is the successful mindset in manufacturing versus the unsuccessful mindset when you, let's say, consult or work with these companies?
The thing that is making them fail, and there's a lot of, I mean, I have a podcast on the extinction events of major corporations in the United States and the world. I mean, everything from the transformation of Standard into Exxon and ExxonMobil, which is not an extinction event yet. It's a transformation, but the Sears, the extinction event of Sears, what caused them, how Sears, if they were forward thinking enough and listened to the Ferengi rules of acquisition, evolve or die, or expand or die, they actually could have taken their Sears catalog and become an online presence such that Amazon would have never existed. If they started their Amazon, the Sears online catalog, and with the business model of Amazon, before Amazon would have never existed, or we would have two very dominant things online in competition with each other. So instead of Sears being extinct and we have Amazon, we would have had, now we have Amazon, eBay, and let's say Walmart to a certain extent. We would have had like Sears and Amazon competing with each other, and eBay for another marketplace, and it would have been a completely different world. And Amazon either would have never came into existence, and or they would have evolved to have competed with Sears Corporation. And the number one thing I find is there's two things. People play not invented here syndrome, So the second they go, well, how would you do this? And it's like, I would do it this way. And I'd consider doing it with this approach and this widget and turn this thing around and turn all your negatives into your positives. And they play not invented here syndrome. Since they didn't invent it and come up with it, then they don't want it. And it's purely vanity driven. And that is just destructive as hell. The other thing they do is they find reasons not to. So, it's like you propose, you want to do something, you're telling them about it, and they go, well, won't that affect the color of the sky? Won't the sky be less blue? Or it's like, what will the space aliens think? Whatever, they will make up any reason in the world to not do it. To the point, my consulting to some corporations, they have adapted my vernacular. I call up one of my buddies, Tommy. I go, Tommy, it's like, did you talk to so-and-so about this and that? And he goes, yep. I go, well, did they like it or not? And he just goes, man, no, they just found reasons not to. And it's like, okay, fine, that's a dead end. And I'm not talking like showstoppers, like it's a violation of physics. Because I was talking to U.S. Army Development Command in regards to some artillery stuff. And because I had some stuff and it's like, there's the potential to throw a 155 howitzer shell over 200 miles instead of the current range. And they go, we understand this and everything else. And we're talking about the different aspects of the propellant and, the stuff. And one of the guys goes, what did you calculate for your number of G's of acceleration? I go, about 72,000. He goes, you realize we're down between 30 and 35,000. I go, yes. He goes, at 72,000 G's of acceleration, you'll turn the projectile into a marshmallow in a barrel. I go, you mean that solid high strength steel forged billet of a projectile? I mean, it's really hard steel. And it's heated and then it's forged into its final shape. It's really strong. And I go, you're telling me that thing will turn into a marshmallow in the barrel? He goes, absolutely. So it would deform in the barrel from the acceleration. And I go, well, there's a showstopper right there. I've just pushed the limits of physics for that material science. And it's like, yes, we could select a different material science, a different alloy, and a few other things. But for what they were using right then, that was pushing the limiting of physics. So that is a showstopper. That's not a reason not to. And most people bring up reasons not to. And the only thing development engineers do with reasons when you find problems is they don't turn it into a reason not to. They turn it into a problem solved. And then they move forward, because anything that is new and good is going to be rife with things that have to be overcome and solved in order for you to move forward. That's why it's called research and development.
Now, you are at heart an engineer and a tech guy, but I've also heard you speak quite knowledgeably about preparedness, if we want to call it that, and combat training. So, quick question for you, and you yourself are a very prepared person. Just curious, what are the things that you have at all times or near you that maybe people can emulate from you? What are the tools, the clothing, brands, whatever you want to mention? What are the fundamental things people need to have on them in your view?
So I started teaching people associated with special operation forces in about 03. And I was teaching, they brought me along because I was teaching satellite communications. Um, and this is back in the day of like 03, and it had to do with BGAN and terminals and Inmarsat and Iridium 9505s. And it's like you need a little class on how to use an Iridium satellite phone, because it's not just like your regular phone. You got to be outside in a clear area of the sky. It's an international calling sequence, or it was. They've made it a little bit easier. And I was working with a bunch of guys, and they were all former SEALs. And so one of the things they did is like we were training up someone like DCIS, because they were going over to Iraq to hunt down people who were stealing and selling sappy plates on eBay. So these would be all ex-Marines, ex-Rangers, 75th Rangers, a couple team guys and such. And so even though my classes and stuff for them was only a couple days, I was down there for a couple weeks, and they'd like, hey, throw the damn engineer in the class with the students so he knows what they're going through. So I got trained up in a lot of this, and then they found out I knew about batteries and energy and power, and I started teaching batteries, energy, and power so they understood it as well as they did bullets, ballistics, minutes of angle, and everything else, because mission success is based upon, right now, power. If you can't communicate, designate, illuminate, navigate, I got like 9 of those 8s in there. If you can't do all that, then you can't have mission success. How are you going to like put a dot or find the GPS location or a 10-digit grid of your target if the battery in your soft lamp is going dead? You don't have radio comms up to the orbital cafe for them to start pickling loads and having them drop down on top of your opposition. And they realized they had to know batteries. So I got pulled along in all of this. And as the guys evolved, they kept my phone number and my contacts, and I became like their on-call science and technology Q&A person. And one of the things we came up with about probably 3-4 years ago was there is no longer any one best thing out there. That's why I just gave you all that preamble, because I'm working with guys that go into harm's way, and whether or not they come back alive depends upon their training, their knowledge, as well as what they have and their knowledge of how to use and adapt what they have. So like you want to go to some YouTuber or Facebook preparedness group is going, well, you need to have a flashlight and you need to have a multi-tool and it's like, no, it's like there is no longer any one best thing, because it's like I'm living in Michigan, you're living in Antarctica, someone else is living in Mexico, someone else is in the Canadian Northwest Territories, someone else is down on the beaches of Panama, a jungle environment. Someone else is a sailboater sailing around the world. And nice saying the sailboaters have is, when something goes wrong, we can't walk home. So all these different people are going to have different things that they need first more than anything else. And, the common tropes, Jim Phillips, who was a legendary preparedness teacher, and a lot of stuff I learned from him, evolved it, as well as Crescent and my own stuff. And, it's a mishmash. But, you'd go like, what's the most important thing in preparedness? Water, people would say. Someone else would go, fire. And someone else would say, multi-tool or flashlight. And it's like, no. The most important thing, according to the legendary Jim Phillips, who unfortunately is now deceased, is clothing. What will kill you first? Well, I'll die of thirst in 1 to 3 days. I'll die of, lack of food in 7 to 28 days. You'll die of exposure in Montana if your car breaks down and your engine doesn't run, and you're outside and you're in a blizzard with a 35-mile-per-hour wind and it's 10 degrees Fahrenheit. You'll die of exposure wearing your fall winter jacket because you were going to grandma's on Thanksgiving in 30 minutes or less. I mean, you're going to be completely inoperative and then on your way towards death very quickly. If we were in Death Valley doing vehicle testing, and so you drive into Death Valley, you go through Nevada, and you make a right-hand turn at the Cherry Patch Ranch, and you head in on the flatland towards Furnace Creek in Death Valley. You go towards Stovepipe Wells. You go past Stovepipe Wells, which is one motel, one county store. And then you begin to go up this hill called Towns Pass, and it's a 5,000-foot rise at a 7.5% grade. Well, if you are in your Dodge Ram towing a trailer and you're at maximum weight, you come in on the flatlands and it's 118 degrees outside, you have to be able to go up that hill. The vehicle has to be engineered such that you can make it up that hill and the vehicle's not going to puke its coolant or die on you. Because where we're going up that hill and all of Death Valley in August is all foreigners. You can go to Furnace Creek to go hotel and go into the restaurant. You won't hear English being spoken except by us, because all the Europeans are on vacation in August and they all want to go and experience the West, or a portion of them. This is back in the 90s, and so they would go to Death Valley. So we only have a limited number of days for testing. The weather waits for no one. So my boss and I, we were in a Dodge B van, and we're pulling a trailer behind us at whatever the maximum gross vehicle weight of the trailer. We had water dummies in the vehicle to simulate like 8 total passengers in the vehicle and some more weight thrown in. So the vehicle and the trailer were at maximum GCVW, gross combined vehicle weight. And we're going up, and it's like we're going wide open throttle, second gear, air conditioners failing, but we're staying within all the temperature limits for the engine oil, transmission fluid, coolant temperature, top tank, bottom tank. It's like, yeah, the vehicle is operating within, its limits. It's like we're pushing the limits, but we're within the engineering limits. And so this is not a trivial thing to stop, but we're going by, and there was this guy and his wife and his family broken down on the side of the road, going up Towns Pass out of Death Valley. And it's like, it was 118 at the bottom of the hill. Birds literally would walk in your shadow. That's how hot it is. And he just goes, abort test, abort test, abort test. And it's like, immediately, I turn off. Actually, I left the data acquisition running because I wanted to catch the vehicle cooling down. But he threw it, he dropped it out of low gear and pulled over, and we pulled over and we walked back, and it was a French family. And my boss spoke some French because he was at AMC when Renault bought AMC. So he knew conversational French. And the guy was going, we're talking to him, is like, he understood his vehicle died, okay? His vehicle just didn't overheat. It like overheated and then threw a rod. And it wasn't one of ours. It was not a Chrysler product. It was a foreign product. And we kept on telling them, get your kids and your wife and get in our vehicle. We'll turn around and drive you down to Stovepipe Wells, where there is a payphone. Cell phones were not ubiquitous at this time. And there's a payphone, and there's air conditioning, and they got ice cream and cold beverages. And there's a motel right across, and you can call whomever, and they can come and your rental vehicle or whatever. So the guy kept on insisting, oh no, I can see it right there. We just walk down the hill and we'll be there. Well, I mean, you can see forever in Death Valley. You can literally see 100 miles. So looking at the country store down Stovepipe Wells, which was easily 10 miles away, it's like, no, sir, you will not walk there. You will be dead before you can walk there. And there really wasn't much traffic out there either. It wasn't like one car after another. It was them and it was us and other vehicle companies out there doing testing. And not always at the same time. And so we ended up basically almost forcibly throwing them into the van and taking them down there and making sure they got into communications with whomever. But so what that man needed to have on him was dramatically different than anything else. And as Jim Phillips says, your number one requirement is clothing. Clothing is your mobile personal shelter, because the environment will kill you first before anything else. And it's like, if you fall out of your sailboat, how long can you tread water? So, an automatic inflation vest would be like one of your number one priorities if you're on a sailboat. For this guy, it would be water and coverage, hats and stuff, so they don't get sunburn and sunscreen, and some form of communications, obviously. But since we're talking circa 1992, again, cell phones were not ubiquitous. And literally in Death Valley, you hit scan on AM or FM, and it just spins forever. You can't pick up anything. So not even a CB radio back in the day would have been good for him. And so it's like we take you, Gabe, driving through Montana, and it's December or January, and you're in the middle of a blizzard, but you're on the way to grandma's house, which is only a 2-hour commute for you. And it's something you do every year, and it's like, oh, no big deal. But this year you get a freak bomb cyclone going through, and it's like, oh, it's whiteout and snow drifts. You hit a snow drift that you didn't realize was there. You go off into the side of the road, and you go into the ditch enough that your vehicle is now immobile, and the safety systems of the vehicle is like said, you've had a collision, and it shuts off the engine and everything else, which is a serious violation of the engineering standards for it not to allow you to be able to restart the vehicle to keep yourself either warm or cool. So, based upon these examples, and plus, it's like, okay, what are your students doing? Are they like locking out of a submarine at 100 feet down? Are they on a go fast, or a RIV on top of the ocean surface and going into a country? Are they in a tropical environment? Are they in a desert environment? Are they in an Arctic environment? Are they in some place miserable like England, cloudy and rainy and cool? Are they, in Alaska, or the Northwest Territories or Hudson Bay? It's like, where are you? And it's like, what are you doing? It's like, are you out on your own and you're not going to be resupplied? Do you have a resupply train behind you? Are you in Iraq in combat? A la the, Operation Iraqi Freedom in the 2000s. It's like, do you have a supply train behind you? It's like, are you foot mobile? Are you vehicle mobile? It's like, what I have on me and what I have in my vehicle are like two different things, because I'm not having everything on me. If I'm in the vehicle, there's things on me, which is usually such that I can find the things that are in my vehicle. So, I have two flashlights on me. I got my main flashlight in my right pocket. And I got a single AA flashlight in my left pocket. And I pulled out my super duper fancy flashlight in my right pocket. And for whatever reason, it didn't work. And so I immediately reached in my left pocket, pulled out my push button streamlight that has solid click on and click off, turned it on, and continued with what I had to do. And then I figured out that my smart flashlight decided to shut itself off, even though the battery was fully charged and everything else. So there is no longer any best item. There is no longer anything for you to have on you. It changes hour to hour, day to day, week to week, season to season. Am I walking around the block? Am I going for a 10-mile or 10-kilometer race or jog? Is part of that rural, and the start line and the finish line is in the city, but we're jogging around the country and coming back around. Are there any support vehicles, or is it like a thing that me and 10 other people are doing? Are you going to be traveling on a plane? Gabriel, I mean, how much does what you carry with you change whether you're driving someplace or taking an airplane someplace?
Completely, yeah. You can't take anything you want in an airplane, obviously.
Yeah, and it's like you start going down your hierarchy of things, and it's like the first thing you need to be able to breathe. That's number one. Okay, that's going to knock you out in 30 seconds to 3 minutes. Not being able to breathe. In fact, if someone was to practice jujitsu and choke you out, basically you're out in like 6 to 8 seconds by restricting the blood flow, to your head. So actually, breathing and not bleeding out, as an art, it's like, oh, my arm, it just disappeared. You got like 3 arteries spurting. Well, obviously, you extenuating out is going to be knocking you out in single digit tens of seconds, 10, 20, 30 seconds. You're going to be passed out. Never mind not being able to breathe. So it's like, are you anticipating being shot? No. Okay, let's not worry about the tourniquet. And it's like when I was in the Sheriff Reserve, I carried like 4 tourniquets on me because I actually had a full TCCC, Tactical Combat Casualty Care, stuffing wounds and tourniqueting and, all that nice stuff, stopping catastrophic blood loss. And so that was one of my priorities. It's like I was wearing a gun, I was wearing a bulletproof vest, and I was wearing a uniform that said, shoot me. And so having tourniquets was, a high priority. Now, if I'm a host puller, which is what cops call firemen, or let's say, Gabriel, you're going over to, do you remember the Paradise Fire that killed over 100 people in California?
Yes.
Okay, let's say preparedness related. It's like your grandmother was in Paradise, okay? And let's say you were living in like Reno, Nevada, okay? Close enough to California, but yet not in California, okay? And it's like, Gabriel, I need some help. It's like there's a fire and it could be coming my way. It's like it might be here tomorrow. So what's one of the requirements? Breathing, okay? If you can't breathe, you're going to lose consciousness within minutes. So one of the things that can cripple you is smoke particles in your eyes, which is why a lot of guys I know actually have swim goggles in their travel gear. So if there's a fire in the hotel, they can actually still see even if they're coughing on the smoke because those particulates get in your eyes. And even if you're coughing and moving, what good is it if you can't see? So if you're going down to grandma's, maybe you're going to take a Mira or an Israeli gas mask or even a Nova or a better one with you with 40 millimeter canisters, because it's like well, the fire's not at grandma's yet, but I'm going to have to drive through an area that has not the fire yet, but has the wind blowing the smoke completely over it. It's like, I'm going to get the grandma, I'm going to take the back roads and everything else. And let me tell you, as someone who studied wind noise in vehicles by setting off gigantic smoke bombs inside of vehicles to see where all the smoke came out, let me tell you, a vehicle is extremely leaky. Okay, it's not a sealed environment. And therefore, I don't care what they say about your in-cabin air filter. Smoke is going to get into your cabin, especially when it's like that density. So Gabriel may very well wanting a gas mask such that his eyes don't get contaminated and he has his vision obstructed from particulates, and he's not choking on particulates and coughing while he's trying to call grandma on his cell phone, because you got a wireless earbud in each ear so you can talk through your phone to grandma via Bluetooth, right, Gabe?
Of course.
So anyways, you're going to be having that with you. So that's protecting. So we covered clothing and why, because of cold, hot, and other situations. Then we got airway and breathing. So that's important. Well, like the guy on Towns Pass and Death Valley, he probably didn't have anywhere near the amount of water. In fact, the same mentor of mine, Edwin York, they would launch missiles, sounding rockets out of where like the Nellis Air Force Base area was. And they were doing upper atmospheric research. In fact, he discovered the Van Allen radiation belts, but he never identified them. So they were almost called the Edwin York radiation belts rather than the Van Allen radiation belts. So the rocket would go up and then it would come down, and it would come down way down range. So he actually, would go out with a buddy in a Jeep, and to go find the rocket. And he actually had to travel into Area 51, Groom Lake, before there was anything there because his rockets would go that far. And so, do you know in the late 40s and early 50s, how did you find a rocket that went, 125 miles downrange?
No.
No GPS, no radio beacon, none of that. They put to like an ounce of hamburger meat in there, so when the rocket landed, it would rot, and they'd look for the vultures circle, going above the rocket, and that was their indication what direction to go for the rocket. So, anyways, my point was that he studied the amount of water you needed in a Nevada desert environment. Not quite as bad as Death Valley, but still 100 plus degrees, high sun load, you know, and driving in a Jeep that is not protecting you from the 40, 50 mile per hour wind going by you. They took 5 gallons of water per person per day. So they would literally load up a cooler with, they knew it was going to take them a day to go out and back. So they would take 2 days plus of water per person, 2 of them, and they would load up a cooler full of water and ice because the ice melts and becomes water. And the allocation was 5 gallons per day for each of them being active in a desert environment. In fact, when I was in Arizona doing vehicle testing, they got construction crews on the road in the summertime. And one time I was stuck in traffic and there was construction, and I just pulled over. I went up and talked to the guy in charge because they have these big orange coolers on like all the vehicles where you can go and get water. And I asked him how much did they allocate per person per day out in Arizona for the road crew, which is definitely a whole day, hard day's worth of work. And he said, 5+ gallons plus more, plus spare, um, for every person out there is what they had. So it's hard to say what is the number one best things that you have on you. It's like, okay, I hate multi-tools with a passion because all they are is a damn good pair of pliers. They're a piss poor screwdriver, and they're a piss poor knife, and they're a piss poor pair of scissors, and they're an okay pair of light wire cutters. And it's like, if you're going out and if you're going out and to do something and you're going to need a screwdriver, then you take a freaking screwdriver. Because when the guys would come in for the class, I go, okay, let's see who's got the best multi-tool. Everyone pull out their multi-tool. And they'd all pull them out, put them down. I'd go by and collect them all in a basket and throw them in a hallway. I go, you just lost your multi-tool. What are you going to do now? And I had a whole collection of I've collected and bought every screwdriver you can think of, especially the small ones like the DeWalt and the Milwaukee and the Chinesium ones where it's like the size of a golf ball and all the bits go into the ball. So you can have a real screwdriver, sometimes ratcheting, that's like a real Phillips or a small Phillips or a pointed Phillips or a fat Phillips, and or a good blade screwdriver or a Torx, and that and even those won't even touch my laptop. It's like, Gabe, when you travel with your laptop, do you carry a miniature screwdriver set with you in case you have to open it up and it's like your NVMe got bricked? And it's like, okay, I gotta, take my spare NVMe or go buy one, open it up, drop it in, take my my backup boot drive that I travel with, which has my recovery software on it, boot off the USB drive through Lightning 4. Not Lightning, Thunderbolt 4. And then the computer sees it, boots it up, and it's like, oh, you're booting up in recovery mode. Would you like to take me the image that you saved off 9 hours ago and reflash your C drive? Yes, please. And you recover it. So if I'm traveling, I have a small set of screwdrivers a set of really small screwdrivers for my laptop where the bits are small enough for me to get into my laptop to replace uh, the drive or the memory, or to do something that requires opening the drive. Otherwise, the second your laptop goes kaput, you're kaput, and it's 2 a.m. in the morning and you can't do anything until anything else opens up. So what you are carrying with you is not only the environment, it's not only the situation, it's not only what you're doing and going to be doing and where you are in the world, it's what you have on you. It's like, what do you have on you that is going to require it being repaired, fixed, reconfigured, frequency changed, etc. And so, that you start making a matrix of all these different things, and it's like the comm guy is not carrying the same thing as the shooter, and the shooter is not carrying the same stuff as the breacher. They all have their different things for that mission, that application, that adventure that they're going on, that hike, that bike ride, that trip across the country that you're doing, going to the Grand Canyon. You got different things on you for every different situation. It's like, Gabe, you and I, let's go on an adventure. Let's drive the Yellowknife in January. Or like, Gabe, hey, let's go on an adventure and see Meteor Crater and the Grand Canyon in Arizona in July. I'll take you to my favorite hotel I stayed at when I was at Chrysler Corporation in Arizona. And it's like, wouldn't our vehicle have a different, backup and configuration for going to the Grand Canyon versus going to Yellowknife in the wintertime?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So the answer is, what's the best thing to have? And it's like, there is no best thing to have. There is no one thing to have. The best thing to have is a knowledge of what you need, what you're doing, what can go wrong, and what you need to fix it. So it's like, okay, I got 2 forms of light on me. What are those for? Well, those are for me to get to my other things that I have with me on my donkey, or on my, I might have a, if I had a Malinois, I might have a pack on the Malinois that it's carrying some stuff. Maybe my cat has some things on it, or stuff in my vehicle or whatever. So the light allows me to get to my better sources of light, so I can open up the hood and look into it better. And it's like, okay, what's going on? Is my main serpentine belt broken? Is it loose? Is the radiator pressurized? Take a pair of gloves, leather gloves, squeeze the top hose, and it's like, oh, it's pressurized. Okay, nothing dripping. That's good. And it's like, what is wrong? What's making that noise? If you ever heard a power steering pump going low on fluid or bad, it's an unmistakable noise. And it's like, oh, my power steering is leaking. Good thing I got an extra can of it, in my kit in the back of the vehicle. So fill it up full of power steering, get myself to the next town, find a 24-hour Walmart and get more power steering fluid, go and check into a hotel or drive to a larger city, and then take it into some place to get fixed. Um, so your configuration changes, and a lot of it is based upon, what do I need right now? What do I need? Like the old saying goes, the only reason for a pistol is to fight yourself to the point where you get a rifle, right?
Sure.
It's the same thing. Why do I have 2 flashlights on me? 2 is one is none. 3 is for me, 4 is even more, 5, I make it home alive, 6 is good mix, 7 is heaven. 8, I don't make a mistake. 9 is also fine. With 10, I don't go to the store again. Yeah, it started off as, they taught me 2 is one is none. And then they're like, when I was on the survival podcast with Jack Spirko, I kept on making another one. He'd always ask me, like, Steve, what are you up to now? It's like I had to keep on inventing those sayings out further and further and further.
I love it.
And so the answer is, there is no answer, because it's solely based upon you. Are you on a sailboat? if you're on a sailboat, you're going to want, first of all, you're going to want to have your like your Mustang self-inflating life preserver on you, and you're going to want to have an EPIRB on you, a water activated EPIRB. So the second you fall off the boat, the EPIRB automatically signals to the satellite, a digital one, saying, "I'm here." In the Coast Guard and National Emergency Response Center, they all get the EPIRB signal. It's like, well, the guy's 50 miles off of Florida towards the Bahamas. Coast Guard Station, Fort Lauderdale. Uh, spin up your Black Hawk equivalent, Seahawk, and it's like, go after this person. And it's like you're sitting there, and it's like, damn, I should have packed some bourbon while I'm waiting, because they're going to come and get you. And next thing you know, there's the helicopter over you, either the 60 or the Dolphin, and and the rescue swimmers lowering down the harness for you to put your arms through, and to raise you up into the helicopter and get you back home. So I didn't even say water. I mean, if you're off the coast of Florida, you want the self-inflating vest, especially if the wave, the sea state's high, and you want to have the automatic EPIRB going off, and it's like, I'm going to be rescued within an hour. It's like, why do I need water? That's why I said I wish I had some bourbon. So it's like, okay, are you going to be, how far off the coast are you going to be? Are you going to be in international waters? Are you going to be in domestic waters? It's like, can you see the skyline of Miami? All of that changes your situation. You want to give me another example?
I think that's a good sampling of your preparedness mindset for sure. I wanted to ask you about some privacy questions, actually.
Oh yeah, that's what we were initially going to talk about. I mean, it's called the Watchman Privacy Podcast, isn't it?
It is, but I also want to just hear your thoughts on a variety of things. Answer me this. What are the things that are going to basically take away our ability to be private in a short period of time here, if that's not already gone?
It's already gone. For your average citizen, it's already gone. Some friends of mine were doing some experiments, and so they would pick obtuse names of animals, and it's like they'd be having a conversation in the room, and it's like they'd have their Alexa unit on. These are like high speed, team guys, okay? And it's like they're testing the crap. So the computer was off, phones were outside, nothing else on there but the Alexa. And they'd have conversations about platypuses. Now, how often does a platypus come up in normal conversation?
Once every 10 years.
Yeah, right. They're talking about, oh, yeah, my daughter, she loves platypuses for whatever reason. She thinks they're the cutest things in the world, and she wanted me to get some books on them, and she's been watching YouTube videos on platypuses, and there's a platypus rescue foundation, but it's not in the United States, because she wanted to go see one. We found out that at the zoo, 2 hours in the city away from us had one. So we're going to do a daddy-daughter trip, and like we're going to go to the zoo and make a day of it and go see the platypus and everything else. And then they'd pick like another animal, and it'd be and it's like they'd just have their phones with them in the room, like one iPhone, one Android, and they'd be talking about, oh, the turtles and everything, and the turtle rescue efforts, and what Elon did during the big storm in Texas, to help the turtles and everything else. And then they would do the same thing with like another animal, like zebras, and zebra conservation, and the only thing on was like their Microsoft Windows laptop in the room. Everything else there was no Alexa, no phones, anything in the room. And they would see what started popping up. You're just surfing like CNN or something. It's like, I mean, I know, please forgive me for saying that, but anyways, they'd be on like a common public pablum website, and they would see what would pop up in the advertisements, and sure enough, platypuses popped up. And and then again, other things popped up at different times. But yeah, they were testing to see what was listening to them. And a lot of it is, I mean, it's like what was the one app that was known for like having the most permissions? It was either a mapping app. Oh wait, it was some other innocuous app, but it had permission for like everything, and all it was a honeypot to suck information out of you, and it wasn't for you know NSA or government or any first world nation intelligence service or anything. It was for they were selling the advertising data. It was just people who wrote the app to listen to you to figure out that crap about you so they could track your website you're going to and what you were talking about so they could sell that information to other entities that were doing digital marketing. The big data brokers and the data houses and everything else. It's like I was in a hospital recently for a minor thing, but it required me. I called a paramedic friend of mine, and he goes, "Yeah, you're an ER trip, Steve. Go to the hospital." And I was in a state that I'm not normally in. I was in a great deal of distress, and I go into the hospital, and it's like, okay, it's an 8-hour event by the time you're all in and discharged and everything else. And it's like the phone number I gave them was one of my main phone numbers I only use for very close friends, family, banks, and doctors and hospitals. You know, and it's like, so when you're in distress and they're going, what's your name, your address, your social security number, what's your phone number? It's like you're just rattling this off by unconscious competence or rote memory. It's like anything, you'll tell them anything to get them to give you the damn morphine because you hurt so bad. Well, I started getting these advertisements. I mean, I started getting these texts because my insurance didn't cover me in that state. So, as far as that hospital was concerned, I was uninsured. Yet the law says my insurance has to cover emergencies in other states. So since I was an ambulance trip to the ER, I have to submit all the bills and everything to the my insurance company, and they'll verify it and they'll cover it. So I kept on getting these. It's like, wait, I don't get spam on this number, spam text. Why am I getting spam text offering me insurance? I was like, oh, the bills were coming in to my address for the ambulance, for the radiology, for the CAT scan and the X-ray. They were coming in for the hospital network I was in. They were coming in from like these 6 different entities. And then, I stopped ignoring the text and I sent one back. And it's like, yes, I'd be very interested in insurance for my company. So I start doing open source intelligence, background checking on the phone numbers. Does it lead to a person or some other VoIP provider and everything else? And they go, and they're suddenly it's like, well, we can have my manager, call you about, insurance for yourself and everything else. It's like, yeah, there's one of the big, what comes to mind when they say to you, Gabe, when they say, well, I'm going to pass you off to my manager? It's like, okay, yeah, right. This is a scam, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's like, oh, well, with all the spam these days and everything, I only answer phone calls from people I know. What's the name of your manager and what's their phone number so I know the calls from them? And so they give me the person's name and their phone number. So I was like, I'm background checking the name. It doesn't exist. And the phone number, not associated with them, associated with a VoIP and everything else. And I go, well, how do I know? And it's like, I'm in a different state. Okay. And I'm like 1,000 miles away from where I was in the hospital. And I go, well, every state's different. How do I know you offer insurance for my state? And she goes, oh, we offer insurance for the state. And this is the state that I was in the hospital, not the state that I live in. It's like, okay, I've socialed you enough to know that someone within that hospital network, billing network, third party company, or something was selling my information. It's like, what do you think the name of a person who's, quote, uninsured, unquote, would be of value to someone selling or scamming insurance, Gabe? What do you think my name and number and details would be worth? A buck? $5? $10?
It's worth something, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably, between $1 and $10 or $1 and $20, for a lead to either scam me or to legitimately sell me insurance. So I go online, I look up who is the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer for this hospital network. And it's like, oh, okay. And so I call up the main number for the hospital. I go, will you please transfer me to the office of so and so? And it's like, certainly. And I get his voicemail. Turns out he's on sick leave because one of his kids got sick. And it's like, hey, I got inside information. I was in your hospital, great hospital. And it turns out, looks like either you're hacked and you don't know it, hacked and you know it, or someone in your hospital or someone in the billing network for one of your other services like radiology and imaging and someone else or the ambulance network is selling my information. And here's what I have. And like, I'm 85% confident that the leak came from you. And they're like, we don't get these phone calls like this every day. I go, no. It's like, do you want to find the leak and patch it? Or do you just want me to file a HIPAA complaint? And they go, oh no, would be happy to work with you and find out where this leak is coming from.
Right.
So where did we start off? Your leaks of your personal security, and a lot of it, has to do with marketing and private actors, trying to monetize you by you downloaded a calculator app and you didn't realize that the calculator app, which was free, opened up all of the permissions on your phone to everything to them, your microphone, your camera, access to your external storage, your web history, your location data, and everything else. It's like now the phones are pretty good. It's like, do you want to allow access to these things to this app? And it's like, no, 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 no. Well, the mapping app, yes, okay, but only when the app is active. And I mean, if you're using Waze, it's kind of hard to use Waze, which is a pretty darn decent navigation app for your car, especially since it tells you about all the police and the accidents and the traffic backups and everything else ahead of you and tries to reroute you. It's like, that's something you would say, yes, you can have access to my location while I'm running you. But even though you're saying no to all these permissions, it doesn't mean they don't have a workaround to get around you saying no, right?
Yeah. You should expect if something's on your phone that it's a potential issue, whether or not you've given it various permissions.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, already you've lost a great deal of your privacy. If you own a phone, basically, you're being monitored. If you don't put that into a radiation shielding bag to shield its emissions from receiving and sending things, sometimes falsely called a Faraday bag, but that's the concept behind it. But the real reason is to prevent it talking to other things or other things talking to it. So if you make an arrest and you're a law enforcement officer and you're arresting some druggies or whatever, you immediately take their phones and you throw them into radio frequency shielding bags so that they're being tracked by their handler with the drug dealer. And it's like, oh, they got pulled over. And it's like, okay, sending automatic signal to erase and reboot the phone now. You want to take their phone and throw it into the bag so it can't get that signal from whoever's watching them, erase their phone, and thus any message history, communications, phone numbers, even if it is going to their burners and everything else, they want all that erased. So that's why the police throw your electronic device into a shielded bag or box so it can't get the erase command. And it's like already, I mean, drug mules they've been putting air tags into drugs as long as they've been out. You've seen many of the YouTubers like put an air tag in a package and send it to, Kim Jong-un in North Korea, and watch DHL trying to make watch it go to China and then, go to the airport in China. And it's like, and it won't make the hop over into North Korea because they weren't shipping into North Korea because it was during COVID. And I mean, it was one of our favorite people did it on YouTube. It was Dave Bombardi, All Things Secured. One of the guys did it and got famous for it. He sent one to Tim Cook at Apple. He sent like half a dozen of them, and he had an update every week of where are my air tags that I sent to all these impossible locations in a package.
Why is the Ring doorbell the killer app, as you say, for privacy?
Because you now know who's at your front door when you're not home, and you can talk to them and or see them as if you're not at home, as if you're at home, without looking out through your peephole. And one of the problems for privacy is that if you have a Wise camera ecosystem, and it's one of the ones I play with. I mean, the AI on the Wise system, it's all cloud-based and everything else. It does record locally, but I mean, all the AI is cloud-based. It's like I can say bicycle, and it'll show me all the times people have gone by my house riding a bicycle in the last 2 weeks. I can say, red car. It'll show me literally all the red cars. I can say airplane. It'll show me all the airplanes. It'll show, and I say, cat. It'll literally show me all cats. I can say dogs. It'll show me all dogs. And sometimes it confuses the skunk and the possum for a cat, but it'll show it to me as a pet. Well, one of the things Wise does and will alert you to is gunshot detection. And there used to be a thing in the cities, still are, called shot detectors. And they used them in high crime neighborhoods, and they would triangulate where the shot came from. And there's actually a science behind it. I knew one of the guys at Raytheon that did the shot detector that was on the military vehicles to say that shot came from 2:00 in direction. And it's a combination of the regular microphone picking up the supersonic crack along with the subsonic sound of the gunshot. And it can infer a lot of information from that. So it knows it's a real shot and not just a car backfire or you dropping a 2x4 onto concrete. You know how loud that can be, a slam like that. It can tell the difference. Of course, I had to get cursed at by this guy because he goes, man, there's nothing supersonic in nature. And I raise my hand. I go, meteor. And all other people in the room start going, damn, Harris, Jesus, why you just like keep your mouth shut? I just had to tell the guy something in nature that went supersonic. So anyways, even my Apple Watch lets me know if I'm in a loud environment. It typically does this when I'm in the shower. And because and if I'm just in any other loud environment, let's say I crank up the Metallica as I'm sitting there working on some code or something, it'll say, you're in a loud environment. It's like, no kidding, idiot, I'm half deaf. And so the idea is that now your Wise cameras, it's an active selection. Do you want to be notified if there's the gunshot detected? Because the Wise camera will also pick up your smoke detector and your carbon monoxide detector, both of which have separate beep, 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 beeps. Notice all the smoke detectors you've ever heard in your life have the same beep to them, don't they? It's a very, very annoying beep. Well, the carbon monoxide detectors have a different beep. So the Wise camera will alert you. Let's say you're down in Cancun enjoying the vacation, right? And you're sitting there down there on the beach. You got your phone with you in your pocket. You're listening to some tunes on your earbuds, just watching, the people walk by and the waves and the surf. And all of a sudden, you get this notification, this urgent notification on your phone that says smoke detectors going off in your house. It's like, okay, you get on your phone, you look through your Wise cams. It's like, damn, there's not supposed to be anyone in my house. You see smoke in the house, and there's someone coming over to look after your dog twice a day, and your dog's running around all confused, and you hit contact emergency services, and it actually connects you with your local 911, even though you're in Cancun, and says, you go, hey, my cameras are showing that there's a fire in my house and the smoke detectors are going off. Will you please send fire, to my address, and just to make sure this is my address. And it's like, rolling fire now, sir. Do we need to roll EMS? And it's like, well, yeah, the dog might need some oxygen. So the thing is, all of our devices are listening to us, and now we're being able to actively select notify me of a gunshot. So one of the things is, okay, soon now your cameras are doing it. Soon your doorbells are doing it. Soon my Apple Watch or your Google Watch or your other smart watch is going to have a gunshot detector in it. Then your phone is going to have in it. Then someone's going to pass a law that there has to be gunshot identification in like all these electronic devices, and it has to go to the central repository of notification of firearm actions, alert system, etc. That way it's for the children. In case there's like an active shooter, all the children's watches will start going off, reporting gunfire in the school and where it is and all the other stuff. They'll make a reason for this to be automated and reporting, just as these morons passed a law that your vehicle has to be able to detect a drowsy, drunk, or distracted driver. Okay, that law is going into effect in like 2.5 years. And it's just like and this is for regular vehicles, not self-driving vehicles, not autonomous driving vehicles, or whatever you want to put on it. Your lane assist on your GM versus full autonomous versus what's the Tesla mode called, Abe? Gabe.
I'm blanking on it.
FSD, full self-driving.
Right.
Okay, so anyways, yeah, so regular vehicles, and they're going to have to either try to wake you up and over take control of the vehicle and pull you over and turn the car off. And it's like, talk about intrusion into your life. This is coming into your vehicle that you're going to buy. And right now, all your vehicles with your, smart dashboards, not, how they've emulated the Tesla, and it's like, oh, gee, we can, how expensive switches and controls and everything are for your entire dash and everything is. Those are things that are pretty darn expensive. And there's individual molds for all of them. Kind of easier just to go to an electronic touchscreen and everything else. Well, now they have an electronic touchscreen. They got a computer in your car, and you've seen people hack them and play Doom on a Tesla, haven't you?
I have, yes.
Yeah, well, they all have SIM chips in them, either because you've subscribed to having a hotspot in your vehicle so you can surf the internet while you're going out. But the thing is, we had something called the world duty cycle. In the 90s, we didn't know what everyone did with their vehicle. Because the second the vehicle came off the assembly line, it could be going, you could have went down to your dealership in Detroit, got your vehicle, and you could have headed off and drove to Cancun or Panama or, all the way down to the Darien Gap. Or you could have driven all the way up, the Elkan Highway to Alaska in summer or in the wintertime. You could have gone to Furnace Creek in Death Valley or Stovepipe Wells in the summertime or the wintertime. Or you could have gone up to Bemidji, Minnesota or Yellowknife in the wintertime. We don't know where your vehicle is going. And it's like, for you soccer moms, like, how many miles do you drive a day? Where are you going? How many of your miles are within city limits, and so many of them are highways? And we actually had people in the 90s that would sign up for what's called the World or the USA duty cycle program, and we'd literally have like a full PC. So it'd be like a 386, 486 computer, small one in the trunk of their vehicle with a GPS antenna on it. And they would literally have to run a phone cord every night from their house. So Chrysler paid for a phone installer to go over to your house, extend your phone line into your garage, and give you a cable that you could plug, that would go from the wall jack. You could open your trunk and plug it into the computer and plug in power such that it would download to Chrysler what you did that day. So we would get an idea of what your duty cycle was so we could apply it to the population, because that's how we engineer a vehicle. It's got to be engineered such that 95% of what everyone will do with the vehicle, it's engineered to do for. And how can we do that unless we know what people are doing? And they got paid to do this. The participants, they got paid handsomely to allow us to do this. And literally, put in a second phone line, pay for it. And because, last thing we want is their teenage daughter picking up the phone just when the two modems are trying to talk to each other, just so we could get an idea. Well, now it started with OnStar. OnStar tracks you. OnStar knows what's going on. OnStar can listen to you. It's like, and you can make emergency calls via OnStar. In fact, you get in an accident, OnStar makes a phone call for you to GM OnStar that you were in an accident. And they'll call emergency services if you don't respond, because they know who you are and where you are. Now, friends of mine that are paramedics, they show up to an accident, and it's like the minivan is upside down in the ditch. So they went off the road and it rolled over in the ditch. No big crash. Like it rolled over and it skidded to a stop. And the ambulance shows up, the fire department shows up, and they cut off the side curtain airbag, which is always inflated when it goes off, which is one of the biggest saviors of traumatic brain injury to the human head, is the side curtain airbag. Because when you roll over or get a side hit, your head goes into the B pillar pretty hard. The front pillar between your windshield and your door is called A pillar. Next one back is B pillar. Next one back is C pillar. So anyways, Ford and GM and Chrysler, that doesn't exist anymore, Stellantis or whatever they call, and Toyota and everything else, they figured out that if they track where you go, when, where, how fast you drive, and everything, what stores you go to, because if you're parked in that parking lot, it's obvious you're going into Kroger. It's obvious you're going into Trader Joe's, or it's obvious you're going into Walmart, or it's obvious that you're probably either going to the pizza place, Great Clips, or the other restaurant next to it. It's one of them. Combine that with your credit card data, and it's like now they know a lot of information about you. So anyways, all these automobile companies are now monetizing you. Like the old saying goes, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. And so they now have probably the best picture of the world duty cycle ever imagined. But, they are monetizing you to a tune of hundreds of dollars, tens or hundreds of dollars per month or per quarter, or whatever period of time you want to pick, selling your data of who you are, where you're going, and what you're doing, just from your vehicle computer. Now it's like, a lot of people are always concerned, like, is the NSA watching me? Is the CIA watching me? Is the Chinese Communist Party watching me? Is some kid in the basement of their parents' house hacked into the phone system and listening to me? These are a lot of popular things that people ask you about, right, Gabe?
For sure.
But, the biggest intruder into our life is the data brokers, Facebook, the car companies monetizing us. It's like, why would I listen to you for privacy purposes when I can listen to you for monetary purposes, right?
Exactly. How about this then, Stephen? Wind us down here.
Oh, come
What
on. We're just getting going.
maybe you are. I have a less of an attention span. What are some of the things that you do or you find are you think about in terms of your own privacy strategies or just using technology for really cool things?
Well, I think automatically everyone's going to have to contact you and say they want a part two of this episode.
I'm sure there will be.
My privacy, well, that's kind of different because I know where my privacy is being violated. And I'm not going to be one of those people that go like, I got nothing to hide. I don't care. I'm not going to be one of those people. And it's like, okay, so I have, let's give an example. I got like, let's say Wise cameras all the way around the outside of my house, right? And I mean the good ones, the really low light sensitive ones. And I'm using the AI detection and the cloud storage to my benefit. And that doesn't mean I don't have other cameras that aren't part of the cloud. What's the protocol? RSTP? So you can stream the video directly to like your own NVR, at your house and then back it up off location. That doesn't mean the Wise cameras aren't sitting out there front and center for you to go, he's got a Wise camera. Let's jam his Wi-Fi, then break into his house. Okay. There's another set of cameras watching you that are wired that you're not going to jam. So as you're walking up to smash my Wise camera or jam it, the other one is catching you in the act. That would be a good scenario. So I'm using the convenience of one to my advantage and the other one for its obscurity to be as a backup to the Wise camera. So security systems for homes, we don't need passive infrared detectors and for more, glass break sensors, PIRs, motion detectors, and a lot of stuff. A lot of that stuff, if you have the Wise security system, is automatically taken care of with just like one Wise camera. So the Wise camera will automatically detect glass being broken through its audio sensor. You smash my sliding glass door, it's going to go, root, 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 and notify me or the monitoring company or whomever. So there's cameras inside the house and there's cameras outside the house. Now, have you seen those little remote controls like for turning your Christmas tree lights on and off?
Yes.
Okay, or it's like do I have an Alexa? Yeah, I have an Alexa unit with the Bose sound in it, and it's like play some really great tunes when I want it to. But one of the cute things I did is I put an Alexa on off switch or someone else's on off switch on the Alexa. So and then I wrote an Alexa script and I go, Alexa, kill yourself. And it goes, that's its command. Again, I forgot I wrote the script for it, and it goes click. You can hear the switch go click, and it turns off the power to the Alexa unit. So what's the Alexa doing if it's not powered? Because there are no battery powered Alexas, and yes, I've opened them up, and there's nothing inside the Alexa to keep it powered or to make you think it's not powered when it is powered. Just like your iPhone is never off, right? You know that. When you turn your iPhone off, it goes into minimalistic mode and it's still an AirTag. You can still find your phone when your iPhone is off because it's still acting like an AirTag.
Right.
But in Alexa, when you say turn yourself off, it kills itself. So then I'd like go on my phone and purposely activate the Alexa app on my phone and say, Alexa, Lazarus, rise from the dead. And that would activate the switch that would then turn on the other Alexa and it would boot up and everything else. I could play music or have a video chat with, one of my older relatives or something like that, it was convenient for those purposes. The same thing is you can take an Alexa switch, you can take a Christmas tree light switch, you can take a more obscure switch, and it's like I have it, like on my way out of the house, I'll push the button, and what it'll do is it'll turn on all the switches on the outlets that are powering the Wise cameras inside the house. Because I don't want the damn Wise cameras watching me or listening to me and seeing what me and my, tabby are up to, during the daytime. That's between me and my tabby. So for personal privacy, I might have those things for security. Because like you might be more privacy centric, but maybe I'm more security centric. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what I've always appreciated about you is that you somehow find a balance between all these things. And there is a balance to be found for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like don't find a reason not to do it, find reasons to do it. Which is something I started saying during when the pandemic started. I tell people, shut up and stop finding reasons to not do it and start finding reasons to do it. It's not like we're in a pandemic or anything. You know, those emergency funds you were saving for a rainy day just in case? Guess what? It's here. You know, go buy that freezer and go buy that extra food you wanted. So I'll have something out. I'll have something else. It's like when I'm gone, because I've actually had someone break into my house and they stole everything. And I mean, it is rape. It is,
It's very, very disturbing.
it's traumatic. I mean, I puked. I was so upset. All my firearms from when I was a childhood that I went hunting with dad and everything were stolen, and, all that sentimental stuff. And it was like, it was all gone. And I was gone for weeks. They had weeks in my house and they kept on coming back. And they even knocked out the knockout that went underneath that was in my closet that lets you go underneath the bathtub to see if I had stuff underneath there. So it was a really professional thief. I had a safe and it had like 300, $101 bills in it because during the blackout of 2003, which I wrote a book on, you couldn't get change. If you went to the corner Arab gas station and it's like, here's a $5 bill, I want, a dollar Pepsi, in 2003, he couldn't give you change. He didn't have any change. So $1 bills were very valuable. Well, they actually had so much time in my house, they went through um, my file folders. I mean, it's like, it's like 5 drawers of files. And they went through and they found the manual for my safe. And this is not neatly organized. This is a mess of files. And they found the code from the factory to get into my safe, got into my safe and got the $300. But luckily, I was smart enough to take any additional funds and other items I had and drop them off at a friend's house. Only this time, I didn't drop my guns off at his house because I was in too big of a hurry. Otherwise, I still would have had, those things that were stolen from them. But it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but it was bad. So, I mean, once you've been, as one of my mentors, Clem would say, once you've been sensitized to this issue, as in you've been violated, your house broken into, you gotten so upset about it that you puked over the whole damn situation and everything else, that, you come home at 1:30 in the morning and it's like, why is my back door, wait, it's not off its hinges. They knocked in, my back door was so well secured. They knocked the entire door jamb and door out of the frame that the 6-inch lag bolts were going into that held the door frame into the 2x4s all the way around the wood. And I had like double deadbolts, not like where the handle is. I had them up in the middle of the door. And I had the hinges that were pinned such that when you shut it, the pins go into the little holes. So that side of the door can't be just knocked in. Like as if like you got access to the sides with the hinges, you can knock out the pins and the hinges and then take the door out. Well, one, my hinges were on the inside. Two, they had the pins in them for when you shut the door. So even if you knocked out the hinges, let's say you broke in the front door and you want to take all the goods out the back door, you couldn't get out the back door by popping the hinges because there were pins in there going into the wall on the hinges. They're called security hinges. So I've been, sensitized by that. So, like if I'm going to go away, you bet the cameras are on the inside of my house. And you bet they are layered. You bet they are going to notify me and or the other people on the list. It's not just me. It's like, my friends who give a damn about me. I watch his house when he's gone. He gets the alerts on my house as well as me when I'm gone. It's called Overwatch.
Oh, that's good. That's clever. All right, Stephen, you could go on forever. I cannot. So let's bring you back in another time. This has been great information.
Okay, hang on, guys. Yeah, yeah. You know where Gabriel is? Yeah. Get the drone. Yeah. Take over 3 Red Bulls to Gabriel at his location.
There we go. I'm expecting it any moment.
Oh, they're asking, Gabe. It's a long trip to where you're at. When the drone drops off the Red Bull, would you please recharge it so I can fly back home?
If you can find me in my basement in Calcutta, then props. But
No. What was what FDR said? No. When the Doolittle raid over Tokyo happened, it's like, yep, they attacked from our secret base from Shangri-La.
give the final word here. Tell people they like what they've heard. They want to hear more from you. Tell them how they can find your stuff.
Oh Lord. Hang on a second. My cat is infatuated with a stink bug. And it's
Okay.
like, no, stay away. Leave it alone. You don't want to play with that thing. If you do, you're going to get a bath. You don't want that. She doesn't want a bath. So, anyways, let's see where to start. Okay, one of my best sellers, Nuclear War Survival Skills. I updated the book from my mentor, Crescent Carney. It was actually the people I work with that said, Steve, you need to update the book. I go, no, I don't. It's timeless. And they go, we can prove to you it's not. I go, go ahead. And they go, bucket stove, newspaper. I go, oh, crap. Because the bucket stove you make in Nuclear War Survival Skills, the fuel for it was newspaper. So I had to go into the book and I had to update it and add it on. I changed newspaper to Amazon boxes. And I made a whole bunch of other updates. I spent 500 hours updating the book, and it's called Nuclear War Survival Skills 2022, and it's at nuclearwarsurvivalskills.com. And if you're going on Amazon for it, make sure you're getting the 2022 version. It's only in soft copy. It's not the hard copy version. Or you can get it on the website. The website will lead you to the right links on Amazon. More about me, some of my podcasts, which are only up to 8 or 9 now, but Gabe just helped me figure out the secret to doing really good podcast distribution. So I'm going to restart my podcasts, and they're kind of like a Joe Rogan format. They are long, like 1 to 3 hours long. And it's not a 13-minute YouTube video. Okay. I go into depth, just like you heard me dumping what we call unconscious competence on you about security and what's the best thing to have and what all the different situations are. You're going to have me talking on various subjects about things in history or energy and or greater issues that are going on those podcasts. And those are at Harris, like my name, HARRIS 1234.com. That will also lead you to my store, which I'm updating, which is shop, SHOP dot, you guessed it, Harris1234.com. And it'll lead you to the stuff I have up there on security, preparedness, food storage, water, power, batteries, energy, solar, generators, how to power your house from your car. It's like I've been doing this for quite some time, and I got a lot of stuff up there, including things like you would never expect. If you want to do food preparedness, people always said, Steve, we thought food, it's like you have the best stuff on the simplest way of doing food preparedness. I go, thank you. And surprisingly involves an inverter, your car, and an automatic 2-pound bread maker that makes a 2-pound loaf of bread in 58 minutes. But I've simplified it even more. And if you want that, it's called the freezer video, which has nothing to do with the freezer being powered when the disaster happens and your power fails. But it has to do with the extreme shelf life you can get by putting things into a dedicated freezer that are already shelf stable. So if I send you out, let's say you love Baby Bell cheese, right, Gabe? I bet you didn't know Baby Bell cheese is shelf stable. It's only in the refrigerated section because that's where Americans expect it, but it's like Velveeta, it's shelf stable. So how long do you think that cheese will last if you freeze it at -5 degrees?
Very long time.
Decades. So that's the freezer video. So I have basically my approach is, okay, even though you've just drunk from the 4-inch fire hose of Harris, my approach when I'm teaching you this stuff is give me your hand. Let me walk you through this step by step. And by time I walk you through it step by step, it's not with this intensity, okay? By the time I walk you through it with this step by step, you're done with the video or the MP3 file or whatever, and you go, I know Kung Fu. Well, no, really, it's not like that in the Matrix, but really, if you want to know how to make a battery bank, and you get my battery bank video, there will be no question in your mind how to make a battery bank for your house after you've had the battery bank video, or how to do the food storage or the water or the power or anything else that you want for your own personal preparedness and personal protection. It's like, how much more do you need? I mean, we just went through a pandemic, and there was protein shortage. The only thing that all the beef was gone, all the chicken was gone, all the pork was gone, all the fish was gone. The only thing that was on the shelf, and I have documented it, was the Impossible Burger, the synthetic vegetable burger. And I go, hey, Impossible Burger, here's a marketing survey for you. And I showed the entire meat cases empty, except for this one column of these cases of Impossible Burgers. It's like, here's the survey. There is a shortage of all meat products. And here is the freezer case loaded with your Impossible Burgers, and no one wants your crap. It's like, what is this telling you? But yeah, it's like, how much more prodding do we need? We're in World War III right now as a proxy. We got hot war going on in Ukraine between NATO, Europe, United States, the Soviet Union, and Ukraine. We got things going on with USA and Iran, with Iran and Saudi Arabia, which could dramatically affect world oil considerably, because they can take Saudi oil offline. You do that, then there's more demand for USA export, everything else. It can, believe me, it can dramatically affect you. We got China and Taiwan. If China and Taiwan clack off, it's going to be China, Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, all at once. I mean, that entire Southern Pacific area, it's just going to be one great big hot zone. And it's like, with all the things going on in the world at the moment, it's like, how much more does your bell need to be rung that you need your own personal food and water and power insurance? That's what preparedness is. It's food and everything else insurance. The ability to know that I can power my freezer or refrigerator, my smaller TV, and charge all my phones and tablets in my house, and keep my modem router, my router going for my fiber or my cable or my cellular data, and I can still get information about what's going on in the world. It's just like, how important is that to you? Which goes back to a thing. I forgot to show you those images I created for that presentation. But it goes along with the saying that security is like oxygen. You don't know you need it until it's gone. And then you'll pay any price to get it back instantly. Well, if you run out of water, you turn on that tap and it's like nothing's coming out, and your kids are thirsty and everything else, and you're out of everything else. It's like, what price are you going to pay for that, or for food, or for, if you live in Nevada, to have an air conditioner going in your bedroom at night, or to have heat when it's cold. I was, in one of the southern states in that cold snap, and it's like, yeah, I had my propane heater in my RV, and I actually had to get my backup propane heater going with my normal one on one day to provide enough heat. And then I also have uh, an electric blanket I use as a mattress pad that heats me, which goes to a concept of don't cool the house to cool the room to cool the person, cool the person. Same thing with don't heat the house to heat the room to heat the person, heat the person. And I tell you, one night I have a 6-watt heater for my cat, and she just loves to lay on her blanket with her 6-watt heater. Well, I stole that from her one day. I put it underneath my blankets because it was so cold, because that was enough to like help me keep me warm. And then she crawled underneath the blankets and we were all warm. So how much more indication do you need, my friends? You know, I am begging you, I'm pleading you, I am being belligerent with you. I am saying, please do something, not only for your own security, like what Gabe is talking about, your own privacy, your own security, but your own preparedness for those that you love and you care about. Please take one step forward. I don't care if it's like some other person on YouTube. I don't care if you go to Harris123. I don't care if, part of your personal privacy is you get a graphene phone, or whatever you're doing. Do something every day, every week, every chance you get to move yourself forward. Because I have a private group called Steve's Power Circle, and it started off all about being preparedness. Now it's a greater think tank. And someone wrote to me and said, hey, what do the people in your power circle do when there's a nor'easter getting ready to clobber Washington, D.C., and like stop all the, turn off the power and stop all the traffic? And I wrote back to them. I said, nothing. They're already prepared.
Right.
So,
Right.
and we literally had these storms come through my state a couple weeks ago, and it knocked out the power on the other side of the state like crazy. And one of the people in my group who lives over there posted a picture of him in his basement because the tornado sirens were literally going off. The power was out. And him and his kids were sitting there and watching something like Aladdin on a smaller TV with a DVD. And they had, he had a like a glass with ice, and he had a Coke can there, and he had some munchies, and he had the AM FM shortwave radio sitting there, listening to the local station about the weather, because the kids were watching, something else. But they were in their basement, and he goes, what do Harris people do when there's no power in a tornado and the kids are scared? Nothing. I mean, what do they have to do before, nothing. We're already prepared. We're already ready. My friends, it is the biggest peace of mind you will ever have. And Gabriel is giving you a tremendous peace of mind in his education that he's given you. It's like, I'm trying to give you another peace of mind. In fact, I should put it up on the website. It's on my X thing. I have a story of how the iWatch saved my mother's life. And she asked me to record the story for her for Mother's Day so it could benefit other people. I think it's on NoPub, KNOWPUB, so x.com/NoPub. I think it's on there, but it's a really great story about what I've done for my parents since 1998 for their safety and protection. And my mother, because it wasn't a question of if, it was a question of when my mother was going to have a medical emergency. And Gabe, it took 14 years for her to have a medical emergency. But the doctor said if you didn't have that thing, you'd be dead, or you'd be paralyzed in a nursing home. And it's not the iWatch. It's the philosophy behind it and how I trained my mother. And it's like, you trained your mother? And one of the guys I work with said, you trained your mother? I go, like a Malinois. But there are things like that I use to protect her life. And it's like I turned off all the security. There's no PIN code for her phone. It's like Siri is listening all the time. And she got trained on saying, I'm not going to say the name because it might accidentally activate someone's device, but SIRI, call 911. We had her do it like 4 times on the watch, 4 times on the phone. We had her speak loudly to the phone in the other room. Like she went into the bathroom and talked to the phone in the kitchen, and it heard her. And her best friend and I were just sitting there by the phone. We saw it, calling emergency services in 5, 4. We just kept on hitting cancel. But I walked her through that. She got into an AFib event, and she couldn't do the damn swipe up on the phone to get it to activate, so she could call 911. She didn't know that she could press the button on the side 5 times. I just got her the iPhone 15 and the iWatch 4 days before this happened. But she fell back on her lowest level of remembered training. She looked at her watch and she said, SIRI, call 911. And it said, calling emergency services in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 911, what's your emergency? Yes, I called my doctor to get an appointment, and I told them what was going on with me, and they said to hang up and call you right away and send an ambulance. What's going on, Mrs. Harris? And it's like, apparently I'm having a high heart rate in an AFib event. What's your heart rate, Mrs. Harris? And she goes, 172. It's like, how do you know that? It's like, my iWatch that my son got me, which she always has to throw in there, told me, and ambulance was there in 2 minutes. She was in the hospital in 4 minutes. So a lot of stuff that I'm talking to you about is not only for your protection and the protection of your kitty cat, but it's for your parents, your grandparents, your children, your grandchildren, your people that you those who are you call friends, and those who you love, and those who are family, and those that you care about. It's for all of those. It's protection and safety of all of those people are things that I talk about. And it eventually becomes, it's not hard, but it becomes the lifestyle. Just like your lifestyle of information security and privacy is part of your lifestyle. It's like, do you think about it much, Gabe, or is it more like breathing?
It's pretty natural at this point.
Right. And that's what we want our listeners and those who believe in what we're saying. That's what we want them to do, is to emulate what we've done such that it becomes as natural as breathing. It's like, oh, look, Johnson's summer sausage wrapped in cellophane, at Walmart, not in the freezer area, is on clearance. Oh, I'm going to buy 10 of those things and throw them in my freezer. Now you got emergency food. So what if you have to wait for it to thaw and you get out some crackers and everything else? It's like, for you and your family, it's like you got probably, 6 good meals there that you can space out with other things, with your Baby Bell and other stuff and your Hershey bars and other things that you throw in there. It's like, you're not going to starve. You're not going to go hungry. And it's easy to start with.
There we go. Sausage, all the way to sausage and Hershey.
No, Gabe, I told you how the sausage was made, literally.
There you go. All right, this has been Stephen Harris. We'll have links for the things he said. You're probably going to want to go track down some of his stuff, his books, etc. So thank you again, Stephen.
Okay, Gabe, pleasure being on. Hope to do it again with you in the future, and we'll pick another wild subject to, another wild rabbit hole to go and dive down.
Hey, thanks for listening. Look, I could use your help real quick. If you could share this, engage with me in some way, leave a review anywhere. This really helps me to break the technocratic shadow banning that is happening with my brand. And of course, if you really want to escape the technocracy, go to escapethetechnocracy.com. Privacy tutorial series, books, consulting, and of course, you can leave a donation. Thank you very much.